Hello, my name is Sean. Welcome to my channel. I am here to hopefully entertain you or educate you or both. Um, I normally do true crime, but I just haven't done much of it recently. Today I'm going to do one. Today I want to start by saying everybody deserves a home free from violence and fear. What I mean by that is I'm going to talk about domestic violence. I've noticed, I live in Nebraska, and I've noticed that there is a growing trend of murder by domestic violence or because of domestic violence. And it's something that I've always loathed. Uh, I've known a lot of people that have been in domestic violent situation or relationships. My wife's cousin was near death because of her abuser, and she has survived and strived to become the strong woman she is now. And it's not always the women that are being abused. There are a large percentage of men that are being abused also. You just don't hear about it very often. Today, I want to talk, though, about some domestic violence that has happened in the past, mostly in the past month, but one stemming back from October here in the area of Omaha. So, in the early morning hours of October 28th, 2024, deputies were called to the Chalco homes by a 19-year-old woman saying that her father, a 44-year-old, was pointing a gun at her and had already shot and killed her mother. She was a 45-year-old Rebecca Geiger. Now, Chalco Hills is, I don't know, a suburb or a area of Omaha. So it is inside of Omaha city limits. The response ended in a shootout at the home near South 143rd Street and Meadows Parkway. The deputies went into the home and found that both husband and wife were deceased. It was later determined that the husband was actually shot by the police's gunfire. The couple's two daughters were safe and they were in the house when all this shooting went on. The body cam footage presented during a news conference in November showed that the deputies were being met with heavy gunfire when they first even arrived at the house. That's the reason they opened up fire, shooting and killing him. Um, Extremely traumatic for the children. I am paying homage to the victims, and I'm not even going to mention the name of the perpetrators because they don't deserve it. In this case, both victim and perpetrator died. Now we're getting to the month long, a little over a month, because this next one is on February 8th of 2025. 36-year-old Jamie Hagan was found with multiple gunshot wounds in her Seward, Nebraska home. Her ex-fiance, a 54-year-old, is accused of shooting her before turning the gun on himself. According to court documents, he had just been released on bond after assaulting her, and she had a protection order against him. Seriously, he was released like the day before he shot and killed her. In December, He was facing charges of making terroristic threats, third degree domestic assault that were resulted in injury, and child abuse with no injury after she had filed a protection order against him. Danny Jurgens, development director of Friendship Home, said protection orders can be beneficial for victims, but they're not always effective. In early January, he had been taken back into custody for contacting her and posted bond the day before he was accused of killing her. According to Jurgens, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men report domestic violence in their lifetime. She emphasized the importance of listening to victims of domestic violence. And that's the one thing that I've noticed, like with law enforcement in Nebraska. Some of them don't take it serious. I don't know if it's a macho thing. I don't understand it. Back in like 2001, I was dating a girl who had a protection order against her husband. He kept bugging her and bugging her, and the police would do nothing about it. Nothing happened, but it's still the fact that it just continued to happen. On February 21st, 2025, 35-year-old Heather Gray was found dead in her Harvard, Nebraska home with multiple gunshot wounds. Her husband, 39-year-old, was found in the home with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Heather had filed for divorce 1 day before her death. Their 3 children were present but were unharmed. Court records revealed that he had a history of violence. He was awaiting a sentencing for a 2023 incident where he was charged with assault in a second degree and the use of a deadly weapon to commit a felony. A plea agreement of no contest was filed in January, with sentencing scheduled for March. Now, I mean, a plea agreement for no contest was set. So basically, he's admitting that he's guilty without admitting that he's guilty. And then they, January, February, 2 months later, that's when they're having the sentencing. And in this time, he goes off and kills her. I mean, do these judges or county attorneys even give a crap? Heather Gray filed for divorce the Thursday prior to being killed, and the summonses were issued to her husband the following day, the same day as the shooting, according to court documents. Wednesday, February 26, 2025, the Lincoln Police Department responded to 84th and Sandalwood around 12:30 p.m., where a woman by the name of Michelle Gonzalez, who was 21 years old, was hit by a boyfriend driving a black vehicle. He was 28 years old. Chief of police said that 2 women stepped in who witnessed the incident and brought the woman into Michelle into their vehicle and drove away. However, the male suspect followed them for a couple blocks and then crashed his vehicle into their vehicle. He got out of his vehicle and opened fire into the vehicle, shooting and hitting Michelle. Once officers arrived, they found him dead outside the vehicle from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. She was taken to the hospital where she succumbed to her injuries. The 2 Good Samaritans were not injured at all. There was a history of abuse, and it suggested that the fact that Michelle had a protection order against him that morning, unfortunately, it was never served, and they were unable to make an arrest prior to this. The Friendship Home of Lincoln issued a statement saying, we are heartbroken to hear of yet another life lost to domestic violence. The 3rd domestic homicide in our state in a short time. These tragedies remind us of why our work must continue. Survivors need support, advocacy, and safety. And we're here to provide that. The Friendship Home urges those experiencing domestic violences to seek help. And they said, if you or someone you know needs a shelter, resources, someone to talk to, our crisis lines are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 402 437 9302. You can also contact their partners at Voices of Hope and the Lincoln Police Department Victims Assistance Unit. You're not alone. We are here to support you in any way that will help. My last one is going across state lines into Iowa, but it's within like 20 miles of Omaha, so that's the reason I'm including it. A 36-year-old man was shot and killed by the Shelby County Sheriffs in Harland, Iowa on March 6th after a standoff with the police. According to a news release, deputies were called to the house near College Place and Pine Street in Harlan to conduct a welfare check. They arrived there about 4:30 a.m. Thursday and immediately found themselves engaged in a standoff with an armed man identified as somebody I'm not going to mention his name. Deputies returned fire, striking him, then administered life-saving measures at the scene before taking him to the hospital in Harlan, where he was declared dead a short time later. Alexis Martin, 31, was also found in the house, and she was deceased. Another organization in the Nebraska area is Voices of Hope. They offer a number of programs going beyond domestic violence support, including sexual assault, human trafficking, stalking, and other forms of abuse. They offer a 24/7 crisis hotline at 402 475 7273. Walk-in services as well as 24-hour response to hospitals whenever somebody presents a forensic exam. When talking about abuse, we got to explain what abuse is about. We're talking about patterns of power, control, coercion, manipulation, intimidation, and isolation. This is what these abusers do to their victims. And a lot of times, the victims just feel trapped because they can't leave or get out of the situations. Abusers thrive for isolation. Victims need to understand that they are not alone and abuse is not their fault. No one deserves to be hurt. A question might arise, and I've heard this so many times: why don't you just leave? It's not always that simple. Usually, the abuser has cut off ties to friends and family, and the abuse victim does not have somebody to turn to. Studies have shown that a significant number of women killed by their abuser loses their life while attempting to leave or after leaving the relationship. In 2024, the Lincoln Police Department reported 551 protection order violations, which is 62% increase from the 5-year average. The number of citations for protection orders violations also increased in 2024. The Nebraska Domestic Abuse Death Review Team, DDART, reported 43 domestic violent deaths between July 21st, 2022 and July 1st of 2024. Of those deaths, 81.4% were homicides, 4.7% were taking their own life, and 14% were murder, taking their own lives. Think about that. Nebraska is not that populous of a state. I think we're around 2 million people. So I'm guess 43 domestic violent deaths. Might not be that much, but that's still a lot. Additional facts about domestic violence. Domestic violence includes emotional abuse such as control, manipulation, and isolation. Those experiences can lead to long lasting psychological trauma. Every minute, about 20 people are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. Women are 5 to 8 times more likely than men to be victimized by domestic violence. Women aged 16 to 24 are most likely to be the victims of domestic violence. She has nothing to say. You know, like I said, I've known a lot of women in domestic violence situation, and it's sad. Technically, my first marriage, I was in it. My wife was very demanding, or my late wife, it was very demanding, very controlling, very verbally abusive toward me and the kids. And I didn't feel like I had anywhere to go. And it sucks. I was never beaten or anything like that, but the mental issues that I had for years after that just really sucks. So I can relate to these women, and I feel so bad for their friends, their family. Oh, nobody should have to experience this. And the laws need to get more strict on these domestic violence situations. Like maybe there shouldn't be bonds or anything like that. Let them rot in jail until their court date. Because it always seems like as soon as they get out of jail, they run over there and kill their significant other. Hi. So I've rambled long enough. Love y'all. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. I'll see you next time, hopefully sooner than this last time. I've been working on trying to do a movie, so that's the reason I've been busy doing that. So I will see you the next time, whenever that shall be. Take care of yourself, and see ya. Bye.